So in this video, we're going to show you how to set up a KOHLER canister style air intake shroud. Before we begin, let's go over the different types of KOHLER canister flush valves that you may run into and which are compatible with the Potty Sniffer system. So in general, the canister systems are more or less identical in form and function, but there are some differences that will affect compatibility. So some of the early KOHLER canister systems came with a black locking cap with a socket style tube connection port where the refill tube is inserted into a socket. So we're going to show you here. It would go in just like that. And so it seems that there may have been issues with this refill tubes becoming loose over time due to material aging. And as the tubes are removed and reinserted during regular maintenance, they seem to come loose. So what we see is KOHLER then switched to a barb style cap. Again, everything's the same except the cap is now a barb, and this seems to be a more secure connection method. And more recently, they've standardized on this barb style and have switched to this yellow aqua piston branded cap. The design of the barb is the same as the previous version, so something must be working well for them, and they've stuck to this and have moved forward with this design as being standard. The Potty Sniffer canister air intake shroud design can be used with either of these two that have the barb style. For flush valve repair, KOHLER actually sells a yellow aqua piston version cap and guide post as a replacement for all three types, and this part is stocked at most major home improvement stores. If you have one of these original socket style caps, you can update your toilet to this latest yellow aqua piston cap and guide post for about $10. There's one other version of the KOHLER canister that we've seen for their low profile one-piece toilets that we can provide a model specific air intake shroud as a kit option as well. Okay, so to begin the install for one of these KOHLERs, what you see is we have an air intake shroud designed specifically for a KOHLER. It'll fit over this entire canister and the canister will rise up into it. But in principle, it works just like our standard overflow canisters. There's two adjustments that we need to make. The height of this tube, we want to set this to be just below whatever the water line is. And then we want to set this bobber to be in the barely closed position when everything's good. So to begin with your install, the first thing you want to do is make sure your water is shut off. And we're going to remove this tube to start. Now, we're working with an empty tank here, but imagine the water's full. We want to flush it to drain out as much of that water as possible. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove this canister because we've got to modify the flushing mechanism. This flushing mechanism, as it is, will crash into the side of the canister. And I'll show you that once we take it out. But we need to do a small modification to this flushing arm. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to take out this whole canister. The way you do that is you grab onto the locking cap, give it a quarter turn or a half turn, and you can see the whole thing will come out. Now, usually there's two ways this will come out. This connection is down at the base, down in the base there. And if you take this and hold on to this and give it another quarter turn, the locking cap itself will come off. And this is how basically the system looks. You should take a look at this seal. If it looks really worn or if you've had leaking problems, this is how you change the seal that goes down in there. Let's continue with our install. We want to remove the existing chain. Just take that right off there. And then for this one, we're just going to take this and just hook it on itself just to set it aside. If you want, you can actually remove this whole thing too, but we just want to chain it to get this out of the way. There it goes. So it just hangs like that. There's another set on this side that we will be using for our setup here. So the air intake shroud comes with a new latch, and what's happening is where this latch is installed, it won't allow the canister to go up into the shroud. So we actually need to use this hole down here, but we can't just use that hole as well because the chain would scrape up here. We're going to put in a little bracket that extends this connection point. So this is what comes with the kit. You can see it sets in there and this will clip together and you're given a brand new chain to work with. We're going to take our canister. We're going to install this bracket so that it engages down there. And then we're going to put this locking clasp right onto there. So now what we've got is we've got this chain lowered and offset a little bit. And this will allow us then to go up into the canister just like that. See that? So it'll go up into the canister. Okay, so now that this is done, we want to go in there. This can just stay right there. It'll be out of the way. We're going to reinstall this canister. So we'll put that in there. Take a look at the direction of this. Orient it with the direction that's in the tank. Give it a half turn, and that is in. At this point, we can also take our hook here. Now, you're not going to probably use the whole chain. Depending on your system, you're going to have to figure out which eye it needs to go through. But, you know, we've tied this back so that we can now go right in there. Like I said, you're going to have to play with that, see what works best for you. You may have to tighten up by a link or two. That's fine. Then we take our locking cap, and we're going to put that back in. Okay, so at this point, what we want to do is turn the water back on, let the water fill back up. You can actually do a couple of test flushes, make sure everything is running good for test flushing. The system should be adjusted so that the water level is at the right level, and there's a mark on the side of this canister showing where the water level should be. So bring it up to that level, make sure everything's flushing good. Then we want to mount this intake shroud. And the way you mount it is this chain should be on one of the rounded corners. There is a flat here, and that's if someone wanted to do an in-tank install, they have room here for the pump. But what you want to do is you want to take this, there's a spot right here. This will sit right on top of the yellow cylinder. And just like that would be good. Make sure it's bottomed in there. This should be clear of that. So we know that this is a good spot. Like a regular intake, we want to measure the water level from the top of this shroud. And we'll run this down, figure out where the water level is. Say it's about 3 inches on this one. Pretend there's water in there. But then we want to take this back off. And then from up here, measure down 3 inches and adjust this so that it is just barely below that water level. So about 1/8 of an inch below the water. Okay. 3 inches right there. So that you can see is just below the water level. Maybe 1/8 of an inch is what we're looking for. Okay, then we want to put this back in. The intake shroud will come with a new refill tube, and that refill tube has this little sliding locking knob. So the next step is we want to slide this back. There is a straight barb connector. You can actually put this in ahead of time if it would be easier. Just get it in about halfway. And this will connect to the old refill tube. We can actually go ahead and connect that up right now, just like that. Okay, now to install this, we are going to put this shroud on, just like that, so that we see the other end. We're going to mount that into the barb fitting of the locking cap. Okay, just like that. Then we're going to take this, set it into position, and we're going to slide this lock. It's kind of tight because it needs to be. And we'll just push that down in there until that has got the position set. That's it. You'll get a little bit of collisions here, but you know, as long as that flush will actuate, that'll be good. Now this is angled this way right now. You could actually angle it completely the other way if you don't have an air pump to worry about putting in the tank. And then this refill tube can just tuck out of the way in the back. Okay, just like that. So this will operate just like that. Now the last thing you want to do is you want to adjust this valve so that it is barely closed. So wherever that water level is, just adjust it so that that is in barely closed position. If for some reason it just doesn't want to get to that barely closed, you end up opening it all the way to its limit, that's fine too. So this won't go any higher and it's still not open, that's fine. So as the water rises, it'll pop it and release the vacuum. And that is basically all you need to do to set up a air intake on a KOHLER system. Let's finish up the connection on this. We want to take our tube then. This is our air intake tube. We want to come into the tank and engage this port right here. There we go. And then we want to route this so that it exits through one of these vent openings here. Lastly, we want to take our button switch. That can hang right on the front. We'll exit out the back here. We can make our connection just like that. And this can tuck into the back of the tank. There's a little bit of room inside the cover, so this looks like it's sticking out the top, but that's going to be okay. It's going to squash down in there. Want to do a test flush with the pump running. Make sure everything's good. And then at this point, we can cap the lid here. The lid down over. Make sure the tubing is coming through that crack. And adjust where you want that button. And we're done. Check out our other how-to videos and gallery for more information and other install examples to help plan for your own sniffer system installation.